Hello, thank you for joining us today for our administrative conference, our session on 501c3 nonprofit. It's a panel with three really great experts who are joining us. This is an opportunity to learn a little bit from three different unique perspectives. One is a financial perspective, one is a professional leadership perspective, and then one is from a legal perspective. And so we would like to just ask for those of you who are joining us today to be able to welcome our experts here. We have three professionals who know the nonprofit space quite a bit. One of them is Kara Kelnitz. She's the executive director of the Learning Edge Tutoring organization, which is a program that she's been working for since 2009. Prior to that, as she was serving as the Thursday morning program manager, and she's now the executive director of that organization. She's also started off as a volunteer, so she knew that organization very well and grew within them. She has a master's degree in social work from the Jane Addams School of Social Work at the University of Illinois, Chicago. She was also a 2021-2022 fellow in the Oak Park River Forest Community Foundation's Leadership Lab. Our next panelist is Barb, a face familiar to many of us in Sokol. Barb is a CPA. She provides accounting and tax services to individuals and businesses. She has two great passions, numbers and physical fitness. They both led her to her career and brought her to Darien, where she established her accounting practice, and she's now located in Burr Ridge, Illinois. She has 35 years of tax professional experience. She's developed a successful ongoing relationship with her clients based on integrity and trust. She is providing services for individuals, small businesses, nonprofits, trust estates on their tax returns, accounting, bookkeeping, payroll services, payroll taxes, sales taxes, and financial statements. She is a certified public accountant, a member of the National Society of Accountants, Independent Accountants Association of Illinois, National Tax Society of Taxpayers, and the Darien Chamber of Commerce, along with, of course, the American Sokol Organization and the Rotary Club of Darien. And then our third and final panelist is a very good friend of the Czech American community here in Illinois. He is Joe Vasicki. He's a lawyer, licensed attorney, and foreign lawyer with the Czech Bar Association Prague. He engages in and has a solo practice on civil law issues with attorney Mark Becker and the late George F. Dvorak. The three of them established the Bohemian Lawyers of Chicago, Bohemian Lawyers Association of Chicago, Illinois Scholarship Program, which assists law school students attending schools within reach of Illinois. They've had over 200 graduate students that they have given over $200,000 in grants, which has included international students from the constituent base attending school in Chicago. They have a scholarship fund that's incorporated as an Illinois nonprofit entity and 501c3 with that status. He's also served on the board of the nonprofit John Howard Association of Illinois, which is dedicated to prison reform, conditions within Illinois prisons, and reentry into society. That organization is over 100 years old and has received a MacArthur Genius Grant. And last I'm going to share, but not least, he is the past president of the Bohemian Lawyers Association, but also serves as the Chicago Sister Cities International Committee. He's the chair of the Prague Committee for Chicago Sister Cities International. So a great friend of the Czech community, Joe Vasicki. Thank you very much for Kara, Barb, and Joe for joining us today, and look forward to having our panel where we're going to start discussion regarding nonprofit organizations and just some of the ins and outs of those organizations.
Have to, if you don't have to set it up, I wouldn't go to the trouble of doing it. But that would be my perspective.
Thank you, Joe, for that perspective. Barb or Kara, do you have any thoughts on establishing your own 501c3 or being under the American Sokol umbrella?
I don't, only because we've had our 501 for 30 years, over 30 years, so I didn't even set it up. So I'm not even sure what the process involves. Although I do think it is a lot more there's more involved in terms of paperwork than there was 30 years ago. So I would be on the same plane as Joe, that maybe it's not worth doing because it takes so much effort.
Yeah. Barb, any thoughts? Okay. Barb?
Barb's on
Sorry,
mute.
I'm technologically impaired.
No worries.
Okay, so what I find in my practice is that if I know a couple of people have had the ASO and then they went to their own, I'm thinking more toward if they can get more grants or donations and things like that if they are on their own rather than having the American Sokol in front of them, in front of their name. And that might be the impetus to do that. But if you're small and you don't have any of those restrictions, then I don't see any reason to change. I know some of the bigger units that I work with, they have the American Sokol in front of them, and some of the other units that I work with had the American Sokol in front of them, and now they don't. I know the unit that I belong to, we never had the ASO in front of us, and we still don't. So as long as you're doing what you're supposed to do, and as long as it's not an impairment, I agree with the other panelists that it's a lot of work to switch it. And if you ever want to get with the units that have done it, they would be able to give you the quick and dirty on, or hard and fast on how to do it.
If I can respond and make a comment, Barbara's point that she said about getting grants is really on point. The reason why we got the 501c3 is because there were people that wanted to donate money to the Bohemian Lawyers and wouldn't do it because we didn't have 501c3 that status that we do now. However, what I'm thinking that is it possible for with the 501c3 status that Sokol has, can they establish a subgroup for this local Sokol so that people could make contributions and get the benefit of a 501c3 through the national Sokol and have it distributed to the subcommittee, to the subgroup?
Right. Yeah, that's a good thing for us to explore. I'm not sure on that one, but that might be, I wonder, like kind of like a holding within the American Sokol is what you're saying, right? Like that goes through to the local.
Well, we're probably like that, and we don't have any problems. You know, we're 501c3. People can donate to us, you know, all the benefits of it. I just wondered if there were any benefits being separate, but being a brand new organization maybe isn't as good as having all our history behind us. You know, that was sort of, I just wondered if there were any benefits to changing, because I don't mind the work. It's just, would we open up some new, you know, scrutiny, or, you know, would it be better in any way? Because right now we're happy with ASO. I mean, that's not a problem. I just didn't know if there were any pros or cons, you know. So, but yeah, Joseph, we do have that too, because you're right, that's big key to being 501 is people donate then more to you. So, yep.
Yeah. I have one follow-up question that was actually submitted before this, along the same vein, regarding 501c3s and different status. So I'm going to address that first before I answer Dasha's hand raised, but I will get to you, Dasha, next. We have a unit that's, and actually a question from Pacific District president, we, that was an inquiry regarding, we have, in California, 2 American Sokol units. One has a 501c3. Actually, both of them do, and they have their own federal ID number. And then the district has one too. They have different numbers, but they were wondering, like 2 of them, like the units that are more hands-on day to day, they are registered with the state of Illinois, or sorry, state of California, default there, on their website, but the district is not. And some of them have maybe their registration name's a little different than their DBA. I don't think that that's necessarily an issue, but is there a district? Because the district technically only covers units in one state. Should they be incorporating as well? It's a small entity that's kind of the glue level between the national organization and the local units. Should they be having their own filings with the state and incorporation? They don't have any records of that. So just kind of thoughts. I don't know if anyone has any perspective on that from our panel.
Where is the National Sokol? Is it here in Chicago?
National office is here, but there's the district, which doesn't have a physical office or location, but it's essentially a board that includes the 2 units that are in California that have their own filings, but it's kind of it's the level between the national organization and the unit.
Sometimes the national organization, the people that run it, and their lawyers and accountants that advise them might have a suggestion for you, because you don't want to create entities that you don't have to create, and you don't want to run afoul of the national organization. They might give you some guidance. I remember locally for our scholarship fund, which is strictly a standalone organization without anybody, the Bohemian Lawyers Association. It was helpful for us to become incorporated, and it was helpful for us to get the 501c3. But in your situation, you've got an umbrella organization, and I would lean on the lawyers and the accountants that advise them as to how to structure any local Sokol organizations.
Any other thoughts on that? Everyone in agreement on that one?
I guess
Bob?
I would say that in that case, their district, if they're not doing any fundraisers or anything like that, they're not on the IRS radar because they're not filing the 990s. So if they're just figurehead, then I don't know, maybe that's the reason they don't have a ID number, et cetera.
Okay.
I know, some of the districts, probably all of the other districts probably have their 501c3 and they are filing returns with the IRS.
And Lita, you mentioned that they do have a 990 for the district.
It is confusing because the district has been filing every year the 990, I think it is, form, and it has a number. However, in the registry with the Secretary of State, the number is not there. There are only the 2 units, but the district is not there, but has its own number. So I'm completely confused. I wonder if what do the other districts do?
Does anybody have any firsthand knowledge here on the call of what their districts do in this matter?
I've got a question back.
Sure.
If there's an EIN number, are you saying that you don't know who the EIN number belongs to or who obtained it?
I don't know who obtained it. I am rather new to it, so I don't have records of what happened when, but the number is there, yes.
I think you can get from the IRS, or maybe Barbara has a better idea. I think if you go back to the IRS, they could give you the filing paper for the EIN number, and that might give you that might be helpful.
Okay, thank you.
They could give you the document that says that you're exempt from the, taxes, that you're not, a not-for-profit and exempt. So you can contact them to get that information.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Dasha?
can I speak now? Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, we hear you.
Okay, so my question is that on this group registration, the 501, there is a name of American Sokol. It's like educational organization. So we have a problem, for example, now to do like a connect our PayPal account with the business, with the bank account, because our name on the paper is it's the American Educational Organization, American Sokol, Washington, Washington DC is on the end, which
Mhm.
never gets into the page, and we try to make our like a business name, American Sokol, Washington, Sokol, Washington DC, I think. But they still, bank doesn't want to allow us to use that name, and then PayPal doesn't connect this with our account, and we have all these problems. How is this with the other units? Do they have this problem like with the name? Because when you, like, for example, when there was Amazon Prime and you listed the educational organizations, there was so many American Sokols, but the real name is actually on the end, right? It's American Sokol Educational Organization, and then there was this Washington DC. So anybody else has issues like this?
So it sounds like the issue is like the formal name, and a lot of this, like there's a formal name of the organization, the legal name, entity name, but it's not necessarily the name that they go by, the DBA, kind of the doing business as name. Any thoughts on the best way to make sure that you can operate that way, where it be able to use, for example, Dasha's from Sokol, Washington, DC, being able to say that rather than the full long legal name of that? Any insights from our panelists on how to, like, what is there a process that needs to be adhered to for that? Is like, what would be the setup there?
We changed our name last year. We used to be called the Cluster Tutoring Program. That's still our legal name, but it was pretty simple process in Illinois. I don't know what it'd be like in DC, but we just did a DBA with the Secretary of State, and I took that form to the bank, and then they changed our account. So now we're Cluster Tutoring DBA, Learning Edge Tutoring. But like I said, I don't know the process there, but it was pretty easy. I've been told that if we wanted to change it with the IRS, then our legal name would become Learning Edge Tutoring. Then we would I just have to write a letter to them, and then they take care of it. I don't know if that's helpful at all, but those are a couple of the steps that I was advised to go to.
Okay, but if we belong to the umbrella, under that umbrella of American Sokol, can we do it? Okay, maybe I probably should ask them. I congratulate you have this easy thing with the bank, because our bank, they didn't allow us to change our legal name, and they yeah. So we should probably change the bank. That's my next step. Anyway.
Yeah.
So if anybody has some other suggestions, or how it is, if it could be done for umbrella organization to be our legal name to become American Sokol, then that would be great.
I've got a question back for Adam. Where is the in the United States, where is the office of the National Sokol?
It's in Brookfield, Illinois.
You are the national. Yeah.
Well, yeah, the office is actually, it's separate from any of our units, but it is also on Ogden Avenue in Brookfield. So
it strikes me that the question that is being asked is not a unique question, that there must be some guidelines across the United States for subsidiary Sokols. And there must be a procedure that you follow that for people all around the United States. Is there some sort of a guideline that comes out of the national office?
At
Not
this
to my
point,
knowledge.
probably not, no, but that would be a really good opportunity for us. I have not seen one that exists. We do have, again, a lot of different, a lot of units that are doing, their nonprofit, again, as Joyce mentioned earlier, through the American Sokol umbrella, others do not, so, that kind of changes that. Sokol, Washington, DC is under the American Sokol umbrella though, so that might be something that we'd have to look at, is maybe they would have to maybe coordinate with us, since it is technically under the 501c3 subsidiary of the American Sokol. That would probably be a little different process than it would be. But Dasha, that's a great thing. Maybe you, Milos, and I can connect and discuss this further about like filing that paperwork and what you would need from the American Sokol with your local office, because you're registered in Maryland. So,
I think they're in DC.
yeah, you're in
Yeah.
DC, but your 501c3 is listed as Chevy Chase, Maryland.
Oh yeah, that's malicious address. Okay.
Yeah, so what we would do is we would need to incorporate, we would have to do that there under their state probably. But yeah,
Okay.
let's connect. Yeah, and again, if you are a unit that is looking for that support and you are under the American Sokol umbrella and you want to look at establishing a DBA and you don't currently have one, please reach out to me. I'll put my email address in the chat as well. And we can.
Yeah, okay. I will reach you. I will. Thank you.
No problem. Great question. Any other questions out there?
I guess I could do one more. I don't know if this is the right group, though. We're always a little confused about sales tax and, you know, what you owe under a nonprofit. And we had actually at one of the American Sokol conventions once, they had someone talk about that. And it sounded like if we have a gift shop and we have, you know, whatever, but like, do you pay sales tax on like a rummage sale? Do you pay sales tax from your gift shop? The way we understand it is, as long as our gift shop solely supports our mission, you know, we didn't sell gum or something, then we don't pay, but we pay on like alcohol. Anyway, is there do any of you know what the actual rules on that are with the 501c3?
I'm gonna ask Barb, can you speak to this one, our tax professional?
I'm not really sure, but I know that if you are a 501c3, you would have to contact your state because it's all state revolved around that. But and look at the state and see what they will exempt, what organizations they will exempt from sales tax. I'm not really sure.
Mary Beth?
As someone that was, when I was treasurer, was pushed by Mary Cushing to get sales tax exemption in the state of Illinois and got it very easily. I would look into your state websites and actually put in there sales tax exemption, because they will have a drop down for nonprofits as well. And we still maintain it at American Sokol. And recently I had a reason with being foundation director to help somebody try to not have to pay sales tax and look into what other states are doing with sales tax. And I couldn't believe how many do have sales tax exemptions. Just
So yeah, I think what Mary Beth is saying too, obviously, is that the sales tax exemption, it kind of works two ways. Number one, if you're a nonprofit 501c3, you're not necessarily paying taxes to the entity, but at the same time, there's the other exemption where you don't have to pay sales tax, when you purchase other things. So I just want to make sure I do differentiate between those two. But really, yeah, if you are operating as a nonprofit organization, which all of us are, ideally you should not be having to pay sales taxes. However, I would recommend that when you file with your state, because each state is different, when you file your taxes, you have to file taxes. You don't necessarily have to pay taxes, but you have to file them, making sure that you are compliant on that. I know some states have different requirements on that, so I would say that would be something I would make sure you talk to a local tax professional, somebody who's in your case in Minnesota, because they would know where that stands. But usually, yeah, if it's a nonprofit, you shouldn't have to pay taxes. However, you may need to do a recording of some of that in your disclosures to the state, depending on what their requirements are. Dasha, do you still have a question? I see your hand raised. Did you have another one?
No.
No problem. Lita?
I have a question on the type of the corporation, because the two units are described differently. One of them is public benefit and one of them is general. And I was not able to find any description, or I don't know anything about that. So does it matter that there are different? Did we stop this?
I don't know anything about that. I think, I don't know, hopefully, our lawyer can do that, answer for you.
Hold on one second. Sorry, Joe got knocked off of here real quick, so I'm trying to help him get back on. Could you repeat that question one more time, Lita?
One organization, this is on the page of the Secretary of State, and it is the entity type. And one of them is nonprofit corporation in California, general. And the other one, the same thing, is public benefit.
Still not working?
So I wonder what these nonprofit corporations are, if they are public benefit versus general.
Anyone else have any thoughts on that? I'm not sure. I think that a lot of it probably just depends how you filed it. And again, I don't know because I saw that question earlier. So yeah, one's public benefit, one's general. I would say public benefit probably has a different, but they're both nonprofit corporations, right?
Yes.
So I think it's probably just how they filed it, and if they probably each just filed it a little different because they filed it independently. So I would guess that one kind of defined themselves as public benefit, one described it more as general. Also, sometimes I know with those, again, depending when this might have been many years ago when this was filed. They might have changed the subsidiary type since then, and maybe one filed it at a later time or corrected it once they had a category that they thought better fit them. Because general would have been that. So I don't know if it would necessarily be, I can't imagine there being necessarily any legal issues with that unless the state reached out and said, hey, we don't think that this is what you fall under. I don't necessarily think that, I can't think of any reason.
Is there one or the other that American Sokol would prefer?
Not that I know of. I don't know if anyone has any knowledge or thoughts on that. I will look at just our tax letter. I actually have it in front of me here. And we don't have either of those designated on this letter. I don't believe. Yeah, we're just 501c3. So yeah, I don't see anything on. Okay.
Can those who are not
That's pretty
speaking on the
now.
meeting mute themselves, please?
I just
Thank
did. I just muted
Thanks.
the person. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. I'll try to do some further digging on that. I'll ask Joe as well. He looks like he's not having trouble getting back on. I just resent him the code. So yeah, I'll let you know if I hear anything
Okay.
on that. But yeah, that's a good question. I'll put that in my notes too. I have a couple of other notes about some things to follow up with from this. So any other questions out there?
Adam,
Yes, Paul.
I'm not sure this is the proper forum, but it does have to do with taxes, property taxes. In Sokol Greater Cleveland, we own a building. We are 501c3 independent of ASO, our own, and we own a building, and we pay fairly substantial property tax, and been at times successful to have it reduced, but never to have it eliminated. We know that there are similar organizations that do not pay property tax. Is there any words of wisdom that the panelists can say, or any of the units can share?
So one thing, actually, Paul, I anticipated that question may come up. And I did, he's not on the call right now, but Joe, I did ask him about it, and he did say that there's a lawyer that he has worked with. He said that's not his specialty fully, is that getting that that property tax exemption, but he did have somebody that he recommended who's part of the Bohemian Lawyers Association in Chicago, who may have some guidance on that. So I will definitely connect you with him. I don't know if Kara or Barb have any thoughts on that.
We don't own any property, we rent, so
Okay.
sorry, I can't help with that one.
I could,
Barb? Oh,
Sorry, this is Barb. Our unit years ago tried to do that because we were getting killed with real estate taxes, and we went to the tax authority and, you know, what do we need to do? And basically they said that we had to follow the rules. It's like a school where you have to give your, you don't pay tuition when you go to a grade school or high school that's a public one. So therefore you can't charge fees and things like that. So we in the process of trying that, but then we were already on the other side, and we couldn't recoup. So basically, we would have had to give our Sokol program, quote unquote, away, and then we would have to have special programs that were not exempt. Like, let's say, have a tumbling team or some other events going on at the hall, and then they would consider us as not having to pay real estate taxes because we're giving it to the general public. So if the kid next door walks in and wants to be part of our general program, they would get it for free because we are not paying real estate. We are not paying real estate tax. I hope that makes sense.
It does, and we have been pursuing this for a couple of years. And yeah, the idea of being open to the public is a key element. And we have taken some steps to document some of the community benefits we provide, meeting rooms. We did set up a sort of a scholarship for the classes where a person can, and actually, I see Shannon is on a call here. She was instrumental in organizing this scholarship program where a student or family can come and participate in the classes and be with money being provided by a scholarship. We also participate in Shannon, what's the acronym that Ohio uses? ACE program, or after school something where they can get reimbursed from the state. And
Yeah, but the ACE program, that I remember somebody saying that does not
qualify for what we're trying to do because we're not putting money into it. It's a state-funded program. So that you can't use as an example.
All right.
Because that-
Can I just say something on that one?
Yes. Joyce?
We had the same experience trying to get that done. Same thing that Paul did, try to go through all the hoops that they're talking about. And they said you have to fill out, we have charitable gambling, same gaming forms, how much money you donate, blah, blah, blah. And they were obnoxious and rude. And finally, what we did is we found an attorney who, she actually had worked on both sides of this, but she went to bat for us and she got a sales tax exemption on all of the building, except we do have a restaurant in there. So we pay property tax only on the square footage of that. But it took an expert attorney that does that sort of work. And she went to bat for us and she got that done. But us doing it ourselves they weren't gonna do anything for us.
We do have an attorney, and we're in the process. He was able to have it reduced, but on a yearly basis. So we got a reduction 1 year, and next year it went back up. So we're in that process with the attorney. But I just wanted to ask the question to see if anybody has any silver bullets or ideas. And the big picture that I see is, there is this we're perceived as a private club because we have membership. You have to participate, you have to be a member, etc., which you kind of have to do because of insurance that we talked in the other session. Only the members are insured in classes, etc. So it's a catch-22. But for example, to best of my knowledge, I'm told YMCA, which is very similar. They charge fees. They do the same kind of things. Our property tax exempt. It's my understanding. I haven't researched.
Yeah,
it.
and Joe, you dropped off for a minute when Paul was asking the question. I did say that you did have a contact, so I'll make sure, Joe Vasaki, if you could, maybe share the contact you had who had some insight on the real estate side. It's a Chicago area contact, but he might be able to give some advice.
I think the comment that the gentleman that I just heard is really on point. You really need to have a lawyer that specializes in not-for-profit work, because there's a law firm in Burr Ridge, Illinois, Goldstein, Skradsky, Russian, Nemec, and Hoff, and Ken Nemec, Nemec, was my contact. And they had they had a lawyer in that firm that specialized in doing 501c3 work. And that's very important, and it's very helpful. The word couple other words that you pulled out that were significant. One of them was insurance coverage. If you're doing anything that has to do with possible personal injury work and liability, insurance coverage is really important to remember. So those, but Goldstein, Skradsky, Russian, Nemec, and Hoff was a very big help in setting this up, and so you need to be with people that do this kind of work regularly.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, and if you have somebody that you're working with already, that's helpful. But if you need any other thoughts, I will say I think that's something in general. If there are good people who have some good legal insights, it helps. One thing that is challenging is so much of nonprofit and real estate compliance is at a state level. So definitely finding somebody that's local to your state and expert in your state helps. If anybody knows of anybody in Ohio who could provide some guidance, specifically to Sokol Greater Cleveland, with that, or knows maybe another contact who may have some of those insights, that would be helpful. Because this is a important exemption to get, but not always the easiest to do, and there are a lot of hoops because, again, like, government entities tend to want to get more money, not necessarily less. So that can be a challenge.
This may be slightly irrelevant, but there is a very successful organization that's been regenerated in Chicago, Cicero, TG Masarick School, that provides educational opportunities teaching the Czech language. And Clara Moldova has been the executive director there, and I am sure that they must have legal counsel. But TG Maastricht School on 22nd Place in Cicero, Illinois, Clara Moldova may be another good contact for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And by the way, the fellow, probably you recognize that the what you said, Ken, you said Nemetz. I would say Nemetz is a very Czech name, meaning German.
Yes.
To confuse it all.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Rozumím.
love it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so we're running out on time, and we're coming up to the end. If you have any other questions, I can always pass them along to our panelists later. There will be a post survey. I know a lot of times, especially when you're in a session or just after, you think, man, I wish I would have asked that. If you have any of those types of questions, please complete the survey. It's going to have for the whole administrative conference, but specifically for this session, if you have any questions that you'd like for me to pass along, I would appreciate you doing so. Again, I'm just going to share one more time and just thank our three panelists, Kara, Barb, and Joe, for your insights. I believe this was really helpful. It gave some different insights and a lot of questions. I was actually a little worried going in. We didn't get a lot of pre-submissions, but some great questions and great thoughts. I did give us a couple of notes myself. I know specifically with a couple of questions for the Pacific District that I will follow up with. But if there's any other questions that anyone has regarding nonprofit insights, we would definitely love to pass those along. So thank you all for your time today. Appreciate it, and look forward to seeing many of you in the next session. Have a good one. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Kara. Thank you, Barb.
My pleasure.
You're welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you.
You're welcome.